Good morning, dear students. In this semester, I will be taking your international business classes. So, today we will start with the first unit, which has two parts. The first part is Introduction to International Business. So, the first topic here is globalization. Now, what do we understand by the term globalization? Globalization means opening up of trade activities with other countries. Earlier, what used to happen was that all the countries used to conduct its business activities by itself internally or domestically without interfering into the neighboring countries or any other countries. Later on, after the introduction of globalization, the world economy is freed up, and as a result, the country or the countries have become free to conduct its business activities in any other country. So, this is known as globalization, where the markets have become integrated, or we can say combined or interconnected, or we can say that the interconnection has increased with the introduction of globalization. It can also be described as the free movement of people, goods, or services across the boundaries. Now, let us see what are the characteristics of globalization. The first characteristic is free trade. Earlier, the countries were not allowed to transact or carry out its business activities in any other country. Whatever be the business activities, it was allowed to be done only in the home country. But because of globalization, now it has become possible to trade freely in any of the foreign countries. Various restrictions on tariffs imposed on imports and exports are removed so as to ensure free movement of goods and services. The next characteristic is free movement of capital. Just like the earlier point or the movement of trade, any capital movement was also not allowed in any foreign country earlier prior to globalization. But it is one of the feature now that because of globalization, capitals can now be moved from one country to the other. A country is now free to invest its money in any country. The next characteristic of globalization is free movement of labor. And similarly, movement of labor is also made free from one country to another with the imposition of globalization. And because of this, countries can take the advantage of cheap labor from other markets. The technical and skilled laborers or the technicians can also be hired from those countries where labor availability is cheap. There is also a free flow of information and technology. For improving the methods of production, the developing countries or any country is allowed to bring advanced technology from other countries. The free flow of information enables various countries to adopt any technology from any other country. Now let's come to the next topic, which is need or reason for globalization. Here, the first point is more financial benefit. Now, it is implied that if we trade in a market which has a limited number of consumers, the profit gained will also be limited. But contrary to this, if we trade in a market which has unlimited number of consumers, or we can say that the number of consumers are large, the profit margin will also be huge. The next point is to reduce the cost of production. Now, because of globalization, we are free to import or export labor from any country to the other country. Now, suppose the cost of hiring labor in our country is high and the cost of hiring labor from any other country or any other neighboring country is low. We can hire the labor from that particular country where the cost of labor is low. These will ultimately reduce the cost of production. The next reason why we need globalization is that it has shrinked the time and distance. Because of faster communication, speedy transportation system, growing financial flows, and rapid technological advances, we do not require much time to conduct the business activities. And because of the speedy transportation system, goods or services can now be delivered from far across distances within very limited time. The best example of this can be Flipkart, Amazon, or any of the online shopping sites from where we purchase items every now and then and get it delivered in a very limited number of days, or we can say that in a very less time period. The next reason why we need globalization is the growth potential of foreign markets. Sometimes firms realize that their domestic market is no longer adequate or rich enough to transact in, or no additional profits can be made from the domestic market. And this is the point of time when they approach foreign markets because the number of dealers or consumers are high, which attract them, and this leads to a higher growth opportunity. Demand constraints in the domestic market is also a reason for the need of globalization. There are limited number of consumers in a domestic market and their demand will also be limited. They will not demand the same product again and again depending on the type of goods, and at a certain point of time their demand will be fulfilled and they will not demand anymore. Now this is the point of time when they will have to approach, or the domestic firms will have to approach the global market to sell the remaining stock. Now let's come to the next topic, which is importance of globalization. Here the first point is access to new cultures. Different countries have different cultures, as we know. Prior to globalization, we were restricted to only those cultures which were practiced in our country. We had no idea about the culture being practiced in the other countries. But now, because of globalization, we have come across the different cultures being practiced in different parts of the world. We are not only adopting the foreign technologies, but also the adoption of cultures has become easier because of globalization. The next point is spread of technology and innovation. Now, countries like USA and Japan are rich in technology, and because of the opening up of the economy, or we can say because of globalization, we can freely import or adopt the technologies from those countries without any restriction, which was not possible prior to globalization. So, we can say that this is also another importance of globalization. The next importance is lower cost of products. As earlier we have come across that because of globalization we can import labors from foreign countries at cheap rates, and these labors will be engaged in the production activities, and similarly just like the labors we can also import the raw materials at cheap rates from foreign countries. This in turn will reduce the overall cost of production, thus leading to a low cost of products. The next point is higher standard of living across the globe. This implies that because of globalization, we are free to import goods or services from any foreign country of our choice. And because of this, we can even make use of the advanced technologies which are being produced in foreign countries. This leads to a higher standard of living. We can take a simple example of the online stores from where we purchase goods such as a vegetable cutter from foreign countries to make our work easier, and in the process we increase our standard of living. The next importance is access to new markets. This is a very simple point where prior to globalization, our market was limited only to our home country. But now because of globalization, our market has extended covering the entire globe, and we have got access to the foreign markets which is new to us. And next is access to new talent. Different people have different talent. Just like talent varies from person to person, similarly, talent also varies from country to country. Now, if we want an access to the fresh talent from any foreign country, we are free to do so just because of globalization. And this has made possible that we can access new talent from any foreign country. The next point is better services. Now, because of globalization, as we know, the world has opened up and we are free to trade with any foreign countries. The focus is now to provide better services so that we can attract more and more foreign consumers or the foreign investors. Only then our profits will be maximized. And it is because of globalization only that business is trying to serve its stakeholders the best. The last point is foreign exchange reserves. This point explains that globalization is important because it helps a country to earn more and more foreign exchange, or we can say the foreign currencies, which help a country to remain liquid in case of crisis. These foreign reserves in turn helps a country to gain confidence of the investors. Now let's move to the next topic, which is impact of globalization. As we all know that because of globalization, the world has opened up and as a result, it has left certain positive and negative impacts on the economy. So first of all, let's discuss about the positive impacts of globalization. Here, the first point is increase in foreign trade. This is a positive side of globalization where the tariffs and restrictions are removed, and as a result, the volume of foreign trade has increased to a large extent. This can be clearly measured by comparing the GDP prior to globalization and the GDP after globalization. And we can see that the GDP after globalization has increased to a large extent. The next point is increase in foreign collaborations. Collaboration means to work together towards a common objective. Now, globalization has helped the entry of foreign enterprises in Indian markets, and because of this, the foreign markets are collaborating with the Indian markets towards a particular goal. And in the process, the foreign companies are extending technological help or any other kind of help, and as a result, it has boosted the industrial growth. The next point is increase in foreign direct investment. The opening up of market has encouraged the large inflow of foreign direct investment from the foreign investors. The foreign investors come to invest in our country, and as a result, it stimulates the economic development. It also generates higher and higher employment opportunities and also develops the human resources. The next point is expansion of markets. Because of globalization, the countries are free to invest in any country, and they have also been provided the freedom to trade in the other countries, because of which the countries can employ the capitals invested by the foreign investors and produce large quantities of goods and services, which results in the expansion of markets. The large quantities of goods and services which are produced by the manufacturers are exported to the foreign countries, which bring in the foreign currency. The next point is generation of employment. Globalization has opened up the scope for the foreign investors, and this has also given rise to the multinational companies. With the rise in the multinational companies, the countries will require higher number of human resources, and in the process it generates employment opportunity for the local public. Globalization also improves the standard of living. As explained earlier, this is made possible because the people living in any country can purchase any product or services produced in any other countries. We are free to adopt the way of living of the foreign countries. It provides employment opportunity, and when people are employed, they will have higher income. According to the World Bank, extreme poverty has decreased by 35% since 1990 because of globalization, which means the percentage of poverty has decreased after the introduction of globalization. After the positive impacts, now let's go through the negative impacts of globalization. Here, the first point is competition for domestic industry. This is a negative impact where, because of globalization, the domestic companies are competing with each other with the craze to earn higher and higher profits. The domestic companies are supposed to help each other to grow higher in the competition, but because of globalization, this helping tendency has declined and competing tendency has emerged, because of which everyone is busy to grow his own company without considering the growth of the other domestic companies. The next point is unemployment. Now, you may have a question that just now in the positive impacts, we have seen that globalization boosts up the employment opportunity, and now in the negative impact, we are seeing that globalization is the reason of or is the cause of unemployment. This is because with globalization, we can import technological advancement, and because of which most of the works can be done with the help of computer, and the human element will be eliminated, leading to rise in unemployment. The next point is domination of foreign enterprises. Because of globalization, multinational corporations are increasing. This in turn are dominating the Indian markets. For example, South Korean and Japanese companies such as Samsung, LG, etc. are dominating durable product markets, and majority of the Indian consumers are purchasing those products which are produced by the foreign companies and ignoring the Indian products. The next point is exploitation of workers. Now, because of globalization, foreign companies are bringing in manufacturing facilities in India because of the availability of low rates of labor, and in turn, they are made to work for longer hours. This is a practice of exploitation of workers, which is a negative impact of globalization. Next is adverse effects on culture and values. Most of the time, the advertisement used by the multinational corporations are such that it pollutes the thinking of the youngsters. They show certain contents which are against the cultures or against the values. Thus, it disturbs the cultural base of the public. The last negative impact of globalization is interference in political decision making. Sometimes the multinational companies try to influence the policies of the host countries in such a manner that it favors them or it favors the multinational companies, which suits their business interests. This help the political or the multinational companies. What they do is they help the political intermediaries financially and persuade them to frame the policies in their interests. The best example we can take is the East India Company, which came to India for trading, but in turn they ruled the country for centuries. So that's all for today. In case of any query, feel free to ask. Thank you.